doesn't bend unless you really go for that weak spot and you're strong enough to bend it. You have to be intentionally looking to bend this phone if you want to break it. Let's see if we hear any creaking. Unless you really want to break this phone, you're not bending it. This phone ain't gonna break. You can see that it's bending. You can see the screen want to pop out, but nothing happens. So you don't have to worry. A gentle touch, screen is back in. This phone don't give. So Huawei has got their turn to make a Nexus. And let me say, this Nexus 6P, Huawei has done a superb job. Actually, when I first saw this phone, I definitely thought this phone, in the renders and everything, I thought this was going to be an ugly phone. But what I found is with all the new phones with the aluminum and the glass slab in the front, definitely Huawei had distinguished themselves by making this visor to hold this 12 megapixel camera with dual flash. Awesome. Now, the Nexus 6P, like I said, all aluminum build with chamfered edges. That definitely adds to the look of the phone. You have your fingerprint scanner in the back, and you can see that chamfered edges around that fingerprint scanner, and it definitely serves as a dimple, and you can see it instantly opens up your phone. Now, as you look around the phone, you can see that these chamfered edges leads to these volume key, and the volume key has the same type of aluminum feel as the body of the phone. But when you get to the power key, that's when you feel the difference. The volume key definitely have a texture to it. It really feels good. It really distinguishable from the volume keys, and the power key has a twist. If you double tap the power key in any realm, you can open up straight into the camera. And I'm going to tell you, that is actually better than twisting it twice. At the top, you have your 3.5 millimeter jack, and at the bottom, you got the USB-C, which is also fast charging capable. So when it comes to this fast charging, you can charge up your phone from 0 to full in about hour to 15 to an hour and a half. Definitely, it's pretty quick. So I would say an hour and a half on most cases. You get your phone fully charged up, and the battery life is pretty good on the Nexus P. I would say after 8 hours of heavy use, you can definitely be down to about 40%. But you can definitely go with the doze feature that's coming Android M. You can definitely go, I would say, about up to 18 hours with this device on a regular basis. So even if you use it heavy, you can definitely get a full day on the battery life. So that's definitely awesome. And you can see the USB-C. A lot of people complaining not everybody has a cord, not everybody has a charger, but it's the new standard. But you know what? It's a new standard that needed to come, because when you're plugging in a USB-C, it doesn't matter which way you take it. Doesn't matter. It takes either way you plug it in or you plug it out, it takes. So all we gotta do is buy new cords and new chargers, and we'll be fine. Now, when it comes to the way the phone feels in the hand, now, as we know, the Nexus 6, the Motorola Nexus 6, was a pretty hard phone to deal with because it was wider. This phone is thinner, and the screen is a little bit longer, but the phone is pretty much the same height as the Motorola Nexus. So basically, you got a 5.7 inch WQHD display. So it's a quad HD display, 1440p, or you can call it 2K display. That definitely works. This is a panel that is equivalent, or a lot of people say it's Samsung that made the panel. So we know this is a AMOLED screen that's up to par. Now, it may not get as bright or it may not get as dim, but it definitely works. It definitely works. Battery life definitely helps when you can keep the phone this dim. And in sunlight, I haven't had problem looking at this screen. I haven't had issues at all. So I think the screen is 100% a go. 100% good, you know. But the problem that I have with the front of the phone is the bezels. I think they could have shrunk down a little bit on these bezels, but at the same time, you can pretty much hold the phone really good when it comes to gaming. You're not going to have any issues worrying about touching the screen or touching these on-screen buttons. You're not going to have no issues. Also, you're not going to muffle out the speakers because the speaker grills are pretty big and it's pretty hard to muffle down this phone because this phone's speakers are one of the best. All right, this is the volume around 50%. You got the dual speaker action going and it sounds good. But as you turn up the speaker, that's about 70%, about 90, 100%. This phone is loud. Scrolling, going through the phone, no issues at all. The phone just goes. This Snapdragon 810 processor version 2. This is an awesome processor. And I've been trying to get the phone hot so I could measure the temperature of this phone, and it gets warm a little bit around between the visor and the fingerprint scanner. It get warm, but nowhere near hot, nowhere near uncomfortable, nowhere near scary where you think the phone is going to get too hot. So the heating issues are definitely gone, and I don't have no issues. It comes down with 3 gigs of RAM, and what I've found going through the social networks, I don't have any issues at all scrolling, having issues with RAM issues where I find that it's not loading up the pages or I start to get in an infinite loop. And what I mean by infinite loop, in other words, the first post that you originally saw comes back again. So in other words, and post number 2 is the same post number 3. So you get into an infinite loop because it seems like the RAM is done or the phone can't load any more new pages or something like that. I don't find those issues on this phone. It definitely works. Let's touch on the camera. I'm going to start with the front camera. The front camera is an 8 megapixel camera. And I'm going to tell you this right now. This front camera, 8 megapixel, can stand on its own. This is a... Oh, man. This front camera, when you do a Hangouts call, when you're doing a video call with this camera, and the person on the other end looks at you, they're wondering what you're using for the call. They think you might be on your computer. They think you're using a different device because they immediately ask you, how you coming out so clear? You know, how are you so clear? Why are you so clear? They are definitely astounded on why you're so clear on the phone because the front camera just works on this phone. Now, when it comes to the 12 megapixel camera in the back, it's definitely on point. Now, I normally shoot with all my cameras. I normally shoot in HDR mode, and normally in HDR mode, the shutter is normally slow. But in this case, the shutter is really fast. The shutter is pretty fast. Now, there's no burst mode in HDR, but the shutter is fast. And that's how I like to take my pictures. To the photographs, which I'm going to show you right now. The low light pictures are just on point on these two devices, but the 6P low light is one of the best out there. I'm very much looking forward to the LG V10 to see how that phone performs in low light, because I'm going to tell you right now, I think in low light, this is right there with the Samsung Galaxy Note 5, or it might be a little bit better in low light. And daylight shots are definitely on point. The one thing that this camera is lacking, why this camera might go down as being the camera right behind the LG G4 and V10 and the Note, the Galaxy series phones, is because the lack of OIS. If this phone had OIS, this camera on this Huawei 6P had a chance to beat those devices. Let me sum it up. For pictures, this Nexus 6P takes awesome shots, daytime and nighttime shots in the dark. It definitely captures all the light, very accurate. It doesn't go overboard in saturation. So in other words, your pictures come out very realistic and nice. The problem is when it comes to video and the lack of OIS, the lack of image stabilization. In video, everything shakes. Nexus 6P, you don't have to worry about the camera. The camera's on point. And when everything clears, I'm telling you, everyone's going to be saying how great this camera was for 2015. Now, the fingerprint scanner, I touched on it earlier. The fingerprint scanner is boss. It works almost every time, even if you have the phone upside down, because no one is gonna set up their phone for their finger to scan it upside down. But no matter what angle you have this phone, no matter which finger you set up, it will capture that finger. So I would say this is one of the most accurate fingerprint sensors you can get on a phone. It might even be surpassing the iPhone 6S and 6 Plus. The OS is rocking stock Android 6.0, Android M Marshmallow. It is working. And you don't have to worry. You're going to get updates. And that is the thing that you want with a Nexus. I got the Note 5. I'm still not on Marshmallow. I'll probably move on to the next phone before I even get it. You know, that's just the situation with when you don't get a Nexus phone. You got to wait on the latest operating system. So when you get a Nexus, you get the best of the best when it comes to Android. This is the way Android was intended to be. That's pretty much it with this review. This is the review on the Nexus 6P. It's definitely working, definitely rocking. Ain't no bendable phone. It's on point. See you guys in the next one. That's my review.